Blue skies means fun days. Helping skydivers with tips and techniques about safety, training and fun jumping from those who know. Hi and welcome to Blue Skies Fun Days. A common question for novices is, what is the exit order and why? Well, here is an explanation from Nick Daniel from Axis Flight School.
So when it comes to the exit order of many different disciplines, sometimes people have questions as to why is that? And so a lot of that falls under the umbrella of creating enough space for everyone so they can all do their activities safely, right? So not only are we particular about who exits first and through the lineup, but then also how much time we give each one of those groups so that, again, we all have enough airspace to work with. What we were trying to achieve is that we typically want the slowest falling people exiting first, and typically the more people you link up as a whole, that group is going to fall slower than an individual. So that's why typically you would see slower falling groups like belly flyers go from largest to smallest, and then ultimately the faster falling groups like free fly going again from largest to smallest. And the principle behind that is essentially when you are floatier, you're going to be aloft longer. And so therefore you're going to be more susceptible to drift. Because of that, we want to be able to use that to create more separation amongst the entire load. And then in addition to that, the missing element there is we need to also take into consideration what the ground speed of the aircraft is. So where that comes into play is we want to typically have a minimum of 1,000 feet of separation amongst the groups. A little bit more is actually better for safety, but it might actually cut into in terms of like the performance, in terms of like how much fuel you're burning and everything else, right? So I think for the majority of jumping, we're going to see very commonly a lot of belly flying. We might see some free flying, and then typically towards the end of the lineup, you'll have things like the school, like doing AFF or TANDEMs and things like that. But there are going to be some other jumps that are kind of more advanced or maybe specialty type jumps. So for example, speed skydiving would be one of them. Movement jumps that are either tracking or angle flying, wingsuiting, obviously. So we will have considerations for what those disciplines do and how we can best fit them into the jump run. And part of that is also going to really depend on what the policy of the drop zone is. And so again, if you're moving, typically if you know what you're doing, you can really get out anywhere within the jump run, truly, because you're moving off the line of flight anyway. But it might be the drop zone's policy, for example, to have maybe flat trackers get out first, and then maybe a movement group that's maybe falling a little bit faster because they're at a steeper angle, maybe like just before the free flyers. So as long as everything can be deconflicted, it's fine. If you have multiple movement groups, you might, and you have the ability geographically and also with what the conditions are doing, you could have one group, for example, move east and one move west, right? So it's really more about communicating with the drop zone and the load with what your intentions are and just making sure that we deconflict those different flight paths. So if you have two groups that are basically identical in terms of the number of people and the discipline that they're doing, whoever goes first, for free fall purposes and separation, is probably not going to make a big difference. However, you have other considerations. So you might have a group that has maybe on a little bit smaller parachutes. And if it's basically kind of the same, then you might want to have the more experienced group that's maybe on smaller parachutes jump out first. So maybe they don't have to work as much under canopy to stay aloft, above the bigger wings or possibly cut them off or whatever else. So yeah, absolutely. It's not just about the free fall, but we also need to consider our pathway all the way to the ground.
Just a quick note to our skydiving family. Blue Skies Fun Days is here to help our family grow, have fun in the sky, and to do it safely. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and tell your friends about the lessons we have on offer to help everyone become better skydivers. For more tips and techniques, click subscribe.